thank you so much for all of you to be here today with us as we embark on our empowerment journey. We definitely very much excited to have you all here. So here is our official welcome to Empower Speaks Presents International Women's Day 2025, Empowering Action Together. So I'm going to start by introducing our next piece, which is our panel discussion. So I'm going to start with introducing those who are going to make this panel discussion awesome and possible. Each of these ladies has put in a lot of time into making this panel discussion as beautiful and full of wisdom and golden nuggets as it will be. So to start us off, I'd like to introduce you to your moderator, Farin Willimon. Farin Willimon is a well-rounded health informatics professional with a background in the hospital, home care, vendor, research, and academic settings. Her passion lies in leveraging health information technologies to improve the efficiency and quality of care delivered to patients. Currently, she's an implementation manager at On-Call Health. We got some On-Call Health in the audience. And On-Call Health is a leading telehealth platform and patient portal in the behavioral health space. Farin has an academic appointment as an adjunct lecturer at the University of Toronto. She has also previously taught as a professor at the George Brown College. She's also a published primary researcher and author in the digital health space, and she's an esteemed moderator and speaker at several conferences. During the inaugural 2024 Future of Health, Leadership, Informatics, and Policy, otherwise known as FLIP, conference, Farin moderated the main session panel discussion, which was featured on the front cover of the Canadian Healthcare Technology Magazine, April 2024 edition. Farin, as I mentioned earlier, is also the co-founder of Empower Speaks, and within Empower Speaks, Farin hosts a podcast called Healthcare Talks. And this is a podcast to bring an empowerment lens to the healthcare industry and creates a community that encourages innovation and empowerment in healthcare. So we're very, very excited to have Farin as our moderator for this evening. Now, for our first panelist, we have Courtney Archer-Eatonba Parsons. Courtney is a poet, author, and advocate for mental health awareness. Hailing from Toronto, she has published 2 poetry collections, Mirrors and Smoke and Hallways, which explore themes of mental health, addiction, and overcoming family trauma. Beyond her literary work, Courtney is an implementation manager in health tech, where she leads the deployment of patient portal apps for mental and behavioral health organizations. With a background in EdTech and a BA in Human Rights and Equity Studies from York University, I'm also from York, she is passionate about accessibility, storytelling, and community healing. Most recently, she has embraced the role of motherhood, navigating the beautiful and challenging journey of raising a baby girl. June, who's here in the audience. Everyone give it up for Courtney. And next we have Edith Barabash. Edith is a lawyer, small business owner, and founder of a local charity. Though she is not currently practicing law, she previously worked in the field of environmental and constitutional law. While taking a break from the legal world, she started a handmade jewelry business that took off, and now she spends her days trying to spread positivity through art. When she isn't creating new pieces, she runs a charitable animal rescue and humane education center to teach others about how to care for animals and the planet. And we're super excited to have you with us. Let's give it a round. Next, we have Ava Moratti. Let's give it a round. Ava is a lawyer, educator, and artist whose life is shaped by purpose, creativity, and service. Her work bridges legal education, cultural preservation, and environmental advocacy, grounded in a deep commitment to justice and community. Beyond her professional pursuits, Ava's cup is filled through the alchemy of art, by writing and performing poetry, playing the piano, and engaging with nature as a spiral of reflection and renewal. Anchored in her philosophy of searching for pearls, Ava navigates life with the fluid grace of water, embracing each experience as a wave that shapes, connects, and transforms her. Let's give it up for Ava. Last but certainly not the least, we have Zuna Amir Thanadi. Let's give it up for Zuna. Zuna is a brand strategist and designer, passionate about transforming ideas into visually captivating experiences. She thrives on the creative process, blending strategy and artistry to bring brands to life in meaningful ways. With over 7 years of experience, Zuna has honed her expertise in brand development, graphic design, and digital marketing, working across diverse industries to deliver results that resonate. Her approach combines a deep understanding of design with a strategic mindset, ensuring that each project stands out and tells a compelling story. In her free time, you can find Zuna creating murals around the city. Let's give it up for Zuna. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I present to you your phenomenal panel.
Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. I want to start off by thanking each and every one of you for joining us today. It means a lot being our first event, so appreciate all your support, each and every one of you. So thank you for doing that. So, our panel discussion, the theme is going to be how to fill your cup. Find your passion, your purpose. You know, it could be in your 9 to 5, it could be outside of your 9 to 5, and our panelists, we have a mixed bag. So whatever journey you're on, we have panelists that may be able to cater to you. So before I turn it over to our panelists, I'm going to share a personal story about finding my own purpose or passion and filling my own cup. So 9-year-old me figured out that she loves public speaking. So I'm dating myself right now, but in elementary school, we used to have public speaking, competitions. She's laughing, yeah, I'm dating myself, it's all good. But yeah, so 9-year-old me was presenting in a stadium or a gymnasium of 300 students, and I loved it. And so since then, I've found ways to public speak, whether it is presenting at conferences, whether it is teaching other students, you name it. And so I told myself, instead of waiting for others to give me opportunities to public speak, right? So that could even include volunteering to MC at a wedding, or the most recent Christmas party that we had at work. I told myself, okay, it's time to make a platform for myself. And so through Empower Speaks, that's how we started our podcast, Empower Speaks Healthcare Talks. Digital health is my passion, and so is public speaking. So it is a way to bring them both together. So that's how I try to fill my cup and, pursue my passion and my purpose. But as we were preparing for this panel discussion, during our calls earlier, we were, preparing, I told everyone, it seems like I don't have an artistic bone in my body. And through this conversation, Ava had pointed out to me, she's like, Brian, your voice is your art. And I never thought of it that way. So we're hoping through these conversations with these wonderful ladies, just the way I was able to find a little piece of myself, maybe you too will also be able to find something, whatever that nugget may be. So that's my story on how I found my passion, my purpose, and so I'm going to hand it over to these wonderful ladies. I'm going to start off with Courtney. Courtney, if you could help us understand how you figured out your passion, your purpose, however to fill your cup, and how you navigated that journey. Was it easy? Was it not? You take us in whatever way you want on how you found yours.
Thank you, Kareen. How's my volume? Everyone's okay? Good. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you all for being here. When Fareed reached out to me to join this panel, I'll be honest, I had a bit of imposter syndrome, and I was kind of going back and forth with, can I really speak about this topic? And my lovely husband encouraged me and said, yeah, you can do it. But I think that's important to call out because especially celebrating International Women's Day, as women, that's something that we really can unfortunately relate to. So when it comes to finding my passion, I always wrote poetry from a young age. I would write poetry just to kind of get through some of the things that I would experience in life. Growing up in extreme poverty, with a single mom and dealing with violence and a lot of family members who went through, drug addiction, depression, some really serious topics. Poetry was an outlet for me. And then professionally, I was working in administration, in education, and on my lunch break, I would write poetry and work on self-publishing my books. So that was really how I found my space to really own into that passion, was just finding time outside of my traditional 9 to 5, and then seeking out opportunities like pop-up shops where I could go and sell my poetry books and talk about poetry with people. So that was really my way of finding it, was doing it both, doing the 9 to 5, but then also trying to find what was that passion in my 5 to 9.
No, thank you for that, Courtney. That resonates with me too, right? How you started poetry at a young age, and then through time you found a way to, share that with others as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. And also for our allies, how you said your husband pushed you to do this. So all the allies in the audience, shout out to you. Say thank you for supporting all the women in your life, supporting us. So wanted to make sure I did that. So thank you for sharing that and that piece of you of how you kind of brought poetry to the world. So next we have Edith. Edith, if you could share with us how you found your passion, your purpose, whether it be in your 9 to 5, out of your 9 to 5, you made it your 9 to 5. Please take it away.
Yeah. So I started my journey in a more, kind of a traditional way. I also went to law school, became a lawyer, but I'd always been really drawn to alternative lifestyles. When I was an undergrad, I lived and worked on a farm for a few years and started up my charitable animal rescue. And yeah, I've always been drawn to different ways to live. So when it came to start articling, which is working for a year after you graduate from law school, I decided to move out to BC, and I did that. I lived in a bus that I converted into a home. And that opened up this whole new way of living to me because, I had kind of a double life. I was working as a lawyer, doing my regular 9 to 5, having a more conventional life, and then my weekends or my evenings were going out to these beautiful places and taking in the scenery and camping out in the wilds. And I started painting when I was out on the weekends doing these things, and got really in touch with my creative side, which had kind of been suppressed for a while while I was in law school. So yeah, when it came time to move back to Toronto, I thought, what the heck, I'm gonna give this art thing my all. I'm gonna put my law career on hold and just I gave myself a year. I said I'm gonna give myself a year to just put everything I can into this. And I'm still doing it now after, over 2 years now. So it went better than I thought, and just because I followed my heart, and I'll talk about this later, it wasn't easy. It's never smooth sailing. But yeah, I let myself tap into that kind of side of me that I always had there, but I was pushed into a more conventional path at first. That's where I am now.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Edith. And I think a lot of us can probably relate to that, where we all go through a traditional path, right? So even for myself, public speaking, I loved it, but I always tell myself I'll figure out other ways, whether I teach or what have you. And so I think it is incredible that you have the courage to be like, hey, I went through law school, that is a huge feat. But despite that, I'm going to tap into that passion, that purpose that I feel, and give it my all. And she's killing it. I hope you should check out her jewelry. It is incredible. So kudos to you for taking that step. And so as you can see, all the women, either they've made it their 9 to 5, or they found ways, as Courtney said with her poetry. But we still got more for you. So next we have Ava. Ava, if you could share with us a bit about your journey on finding your passion, your purpose, filling your cup, what have you, outside of your 9 to 5, inside your 9 to 5. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. Where to start, what to talk about? There is so much to capture. I feel like I'm a very multi-passionate, multi-modal expression person that it isn't so easy for me to say this or that is my passion, but when I look at the core of it, it comes down to the journey of my voice. I grew up with, at 4 months old, I immediately had to flee where I was born. I have been immigrating throughout the entire world. I've lived in 3 different continents, and I'm not that old. And all of these experiences were so overwhelming. Every new country, every new language, every new school, people not looking like me, like for example, me being the only one with dark hair in a school of all blondes. It happened for so many years. It makes me look at the mirror and think, what is so different about me? What is it that I don't fit in with the general population around me? So it made me really collapse inward. It made me not want to share my voice because I felt I didn't want to be any more different or any more weird than I already am in terms of the young perspective that I had. It took me a really long time. So I love that you guys were so clear on what you wanted to do and what you love. I didn't know that. It took me a really long time, up until a couple of years ago, for me to realize that it's actually the journey of my voice. And the way that all of this catalyzed, I have to just forever and ever thank and be grateful for Princess Khan, where I was part of his photography exhibition called Fragile Beauty, a Living Sea, and I got to be an ocean advocate. Somehow hearts speak to hearts, and that opportunity just completely opened up the floodgates for me, because it was the first time that I was in a setting where one visitor, two visitors, more and more and more, I started to open up my esoteric way of how I make meaning in the world. The way that I see, experience, understand, interpret, and make connections between concepts and symbols and things that just, I don't know, like the way I see and interact with the world seemed always a bit different than the status quo. And I hit that part, locked it away, never looked at it up until this moment when I was a tour guide. And I started to tell people in this way that I see the world, and I navigated them through the photos through my perspective. And one visitor was like giving me good feedback, and two visitors and three visitors, and I realized the more visitors I was guiding that it was appreciated. And I realized that my voice had actually a place in the world. That was so monumental for me that it isn't just something I'm saying on stage here, it is something that I felt. It is something that through core shook me, and it opened up my voice. It gave me permission, and since then, different lines would come through me, and like I was just so freaking inspired that the lines were just coming, and I just started to write it down, and little by little, I had embodied moments that came together that created poetry. So I wrote them down, and there was an opportunity where at some Loom, it was an art competition, where I suddenly just raised my hand when they were asking, does anyone have a hidden talent? And I raised my hand and I introduced myself as a poet for the first time. So claiming yourself was so big for me because it's something that I wrote poetry, but I always had imposter syndrome. I'm like, yeah, I write poetry, but that doesn't make me a poet. Oh yes, it makes me a poet, because if you do it, you don't have to have some benchmark to hit. You do it and you are. So I claimed it, and even today I claim alchemist, you know. I live it, I embody it, and so to claim something shouldn't be so scary for us, because we have this inner knowing and this inner trust that we are. And it's a whole process of becoming. We're never going to reach a certain milestone. No one's going to come and give you a trophy and be like, yes, you can, you know, so you have to claim it for yourself. And so yeah, one opportunity led to the next, and this quiet, shy girl that grew up all around having this culture shock of life, eventually started to present her spoken poetry in live audiences of hundreds of people, projecting and enunciating and being so vulnerable and leaving my whole heart on the stage on like very deep things that had happened to me, but not necessarily talking what happened, but coming down to the principles that unites everyone. So one thing led to the next. I got to present my poetry at a concert called Find Your Light. And next thing I knew, there was someone in the audience who then tapped my shoulder to say, would you like to present another original piece at a Nuit Blanche? And, you know, it just spirals, it avalanches. And I like to think of an avalanche is being set off by gratitude. So when we are grateful for however life is as it is, I feel it can really embody you into the present, and a lot of magic happens in the present.
No, thank you for that, Eva. I thought there were a lot of nuggets there. I think the piece where all three of us shared how we knew what our passion was from a young age. I love that you tapped into that. It is okay that if you don't know what it is, you're still on your journey. You will find it. And it may take some time. Or if it's there, you kind of tuck it away, and you may already know what it is, so I think that's beautiful. I think the piece about imposter syndrome, like you said, a lot of us have felt it. I'll own up to it, even with my podcast. I'm like, what if nobody listens to it? I'm like, it's all good. I'll listen to it. You know what I mean? So, but you still got to put yourself out there. And the last piece, owning you before they do. Like you said, I'm a poet, so I can say I'm a podcast host. I'm a, so I think you own yourself before they do. So I think that's beautiful. So last but not least, Zuna, please share a little bit about your journey. How did you find your passion, your purpose? You name it. How do you fill your cup? Please take it away.
Thank you. I'm already so inspired by what all of you have already said. My journey started off a little bit different because I started with my passion first. I was leading with my passion. From when I was young, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I had art in me and I wanted to express that to the world. So I went to art school right off of the bat. After graduating, I started doing murals. I started doing art around the world, not around the world, around the city, around Toronto, around Canada. We'll get there. And I was just expressing myself. I started doing freelancing, finding different art projects that would fill my cup. But then there came a time where I wanted to start thinking more sustainability-wise. And that's when I started looking into more of a 9-to-5 and my passion and how I can mix that. So an important part for me was understanding what my core values were and what was really important to me and what I express, what I bring to the table, and bringing that into a job, into a standard 9-to-5, because I realized that was just as important for me versus just freelancing, just following my heart, because I needed a balance in life. Just to be able to think long term, to be able to think of a sustainable future, of something that I could keep doing even when I get tired from, like, for example, doing murals, of making paintings. If there's ever a creative block, you need something else in your life that I could keep doing, keep growing, keep putting myself towards. So that's when I started mixing both of them. I started a job as a graphic designer, which then got me into a senior graphic designer position. Now I'm doing brand strategy as well as having my own agency apart from it, but that was only possible because I gave into that 9-to-5 world. So I think it's not too bad because I still have the core fundamentals, and after work I can still do murals, I can still do art. So for me it's about finding that balance, finding everything that brings me joy and combining it all into a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. I think one piece you really touched on was about figuring out what your core values are. A lot of times we think about outside pieces, finding your passion, your purpose is important, but also knowing who you are. What matters to you will allow you to align with what makes sense and how you navigate it. Another piece where, in comparison to the other panelists, how you said your 9-to-5 is more artistic. But despite that, finding other ways to fill your cup, right? Through murals, what have you. So I think for those of you that are, your 9-to-5 allows you to, work in your passion, you can still expand that in other ways if you so wish. So I love that you kind of shared that. Alrighty, so for our next question, I'm going to start off with Edith. So first we talked about, okay, let's, navigate life, your journey, and figure out what your passion, your purpose, whatever that may be. But once you do find it, when you do pursue it, how does that help your involvement as an individual, right? Does that actually fulfill you? Is pursuing your passion and purpose a form of self-love? Sometimes we throw that word around quite a bit. You may think of it as a buzzword. But what does pursuing your passion and purpose, what has that done for you? How have you evolved as an individual? Or does that actually mean self-love to you? Please share your thoughts on
that. Definitely, it does. It is a form of self-love to me. To me, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I've tapped, or when I look back on my life, I want to make sure that I really tapped into everything that I wanted to do. I want to make sure that I don't regret anything or regret any chances that I might have missed. And to me, like that is self-love, that is self-fulfillment, that's like being authentic to myself and making sure that I don't have regrets at the end of the day. It's what I aim for, really.
I love that. She's concise. The number one point was, no, I was short and sweet. She's like, even during her preparation calls, that's what she said too. She's like, I don't want regret in life. And that also made me self-reflect as well in pursuing things. Like I said, for me, I knew what my passion was, but it took me some time to pursue it. And Edith, on the other hand, she's like, I'm going to finish law school. I know what my passion is, and she started a successful business. So I think that's amazing, and a great way to live life, to be ask yourself, when I am on, not to be dark, but on my deathbed, do I want to have X, Y, and Z regrets? So I think that's a beautiful way to lead life. So thank you for sharing that, Edith. Next, I'll go to Zuna. Zuna, if you could share that, pursuing your passion, has that fulfilled you or allowed for growth as an individual, or do you also see it as a form of self-love? So please take it away in whichever way you want to navigate it.
Oh, I do see it as self-love, but I also think it really helps in my growth as a person and who I am with everyone else. Because the more happy you are inside, the more you're fulfilling your own needs. Especially something that you do every day. You wake up and you're going to this work, you're putting this energy out there. It really does help you grow, and it really helps how the world sees you, but also just giving back to the world. So I think it's not only self-love, but it's love to the world, and being true to yourself.
No, I think it's incredible. I think when you said that, like being true to yourself, and then you get to the world, it reminds me of when you're on an airplane, right? So they always say, put your own mask first before you help everyone else. So I think, like you said, in filling yourself up, you're able to fill others as well. So next, Courtney, I'm going to hand it over to you. If you could share how pursuing your passion, that being poetry, how has that helped you grow as an individual or fulfillment, or how is that also a form of self-love to you? So please take it away in any way you want.
Yeah, I think for me it's definitely a form of self-love is to pursue your passions outside of your 9 to 5, or if you're able to, like some of the panelists have, incorporate that in your 9 to 5. And similar to what the panelists have said, it's, I look at it like I'm living my life for myself and for nobody else. And we talked about this, when it is your time will come. But do you want to have those regrets? And there's also no such thing as it's too late. I think especially as women, we obsess about our age and hitting certain milestones by a certain age. And, I'm just turned 34 and I've never felt younger and, more capable. So whatever your passion is, it's not too silly, it's not too late. You can really just start at any time. So just think back to, when you were a kid, what brought you joy? And I think that's a great way to start. Maybe pick up a ballet class on, the weekends or evenings. Just do something just to really fill that cup. Because as the panelists have said, when you practice self-love, it spills out into your community. Then you're able to love others, and the world just becomes a little bit more compassionate. So just don't think about, oh, it's too late for me, or I missed the boat. No, you didn't. You're right on time. You're exactly where you should be.
No, I think that's beautiful, and I think that resonates with it, it being an International Women's Day event, that as women, there are so many timelines. If you're not married by your 30, there's something wrong with you. If you don't have babies by X, Y, day, where there's something, you know what I mean? And so I think to your point, being okay with whatever your journey is, like you said, you're right on time. You're never late. You cannot miss that bus that was meant for you. It will wait for you. So I think that's beautiful, and that how you share that, and I think it's important as women to recognize that I am on time, and my journey will take me wherever it needs to take me. And if it hasn't taken me that route, it is okay. So I appreciate you sharing that. So last but not least, Ava, if you could share with us, by pursuing, like you said, it took you some time, and when you did find your passion, the door opened and it flooded, and all sorts of opportunities came. So with that happening, could you share, did that help you grow as an individual? Do you feel more fulfilled? Do you also, similar to the three other panelists, do you also see it as a form of self-love? So please take it up, take us through your journey any way you'd like.
I love this question so much. Engaging in my passion is more than doing something that I love. There are so many things I do that I love. But engaging in my passion has truly been an alchemy of transformation. Going back to the journey of my voice is stemming from somewhere so deep within me that the expression of that will take me throughout all of my life experiences, whether they're good or bad, easy or hard, and everything in between. It is my voice that sprinkles all around and gives meaning to those experiences in order to shape me and who I am. So my engagement with passion has transmuted my pain into my purpose. It has transmuted my wounds into my pearls of wisdom. It is the very essence of my poetry. It is the very essence of what gives me this perspective that I have on life, that allows me to swim with the waves. I was gonna say whales, I love them too. And it has really shifted my solitude into connection and into unity. Because when I was so collapsed inward, then I didn't dare share with other people how I thought, what I thought, how I see the world. But once I did, it did so many things. First of all, it sprung me forth into my journey of becoming, which is an ever-evolving spiral upward. But it also allowed other people to do the same with me for themselves. So I realized now suddenly my friendships are super rich and really deep. And the conversations we have are the conversations I want to have. And I feel that by giving myself permissions, I've given other people permissions. And it is by filling my cup that it then overflows into other cups.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I think the piece where you said about giving yourself permission, that is the whole purpose of this event. Is by giving ourselves permission, by sharing our story, we can also give you indirectly permission to also allow yourself to pursue whatever it may be. So thank you for sharing that piece. So we're going to take you to our next question. So we've spoken a lot about the positive side. You know, it's exciting to find your passion, your purpose that aligns with yourself, that allows you to be authentic to yourself. But when you are pursuing your passions and your purpose and you're trying to move ahead in life, there can also be some negativity, right? And so I'd like to ask my panelists, let's start with Zuna first, with pursuing your passions and, trying to find your purpose and filling your cup. Did you face any negativity, certain adversity, any challenges? As we were preparing, Courtney actually shared something beautiful. When we were talking about that, she shared about snakes. When they shed their skin, they have to rub against a rough surface, otherwise they'll go blind. So she was sharing, indirectly saying that you have to go through adversity, or there's no way you will come out on the other end. So Zuna, if you could share in any way, however you would like to, take us through. And before I hand it over to you, I think just building off of the last point that Ava had made about allowing yourself to be vulnerable, where she said that her friendships became richer. That is what we're also doing. Some of the pieces we are sharing are not as easy to say, but by allowing ourselves to do that, we're hoping you will too. So even this question may be a bit vulnerable for our panelists. So Zuna, I know I'm starting with you, but however you want to share with us any adversity challenges that you may have experienced.
Okay, so I think when you're starting anything, there are challenges to it, whether it's internal or external. A lot of the times it is internal. External as well. For me, I was really, really lucky that externally, the people that are closest to me, whether that's family or close friends, they were very encouraging. I know not everyone has that experience, and that is something you have to overcome. But for me, because I did get that initial encouragement from my family, especially in a South Asian background where art specifically isn't always encouraged, I think that was very, very important in my journey. Of course, there's always other factors when you talk about this as a career, but it's a matter of understanding whose values are important, whose opinions are important. Even if there are someone really close to you, understanding what you're going to let affect you and what you will let motivate you. So I think that was really big in my journey, understanding that my own opinions matter first and foremost in what I want to do and how I am, what I want to follow. And that understanding helped me push myself, and of course the added encouragement for me helped, and that's something that I am grateful for. But yeah, overall I think it has been a really good process, and it's just been about overcoming the negatives through your own positivity.
No, I think that's incredible. That's beautiful that you said that you had your own support system, your parents, despite, like you said, the South Asian family, not always the support of a non-traditional role, so it's amazing that you had that support system. And remaining positive, right? Not internalizing, which is easier said than done. I'm not going to negate that. But that's so true that when you, sometimes I remember reading a quote where it said that if you wouldn't go to that person for advice, you do not need to take their constructive feedback. So I think it's also taking with a grain of salt, right? Sometimes it can be like, hey, that actually made sense, or sometimes, no, thank you, and I move on, right? So I appreciate you sharing that, and always keeping light of yourself, like you said, to be positive. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to hand it over to you, Ava, if you could share with us any adversity, challenges, or pushback that you experienced in pursuing your passion, and that kind of led you to today. Yeah, take it away.
The way I see it, opportunity often comes disguised as hardship, but it is not a stop sign. It is a slingshot. Every single time I've been met with a difficulty, I had this mischievous smile on the back because I knew I'm about to fly. The way I see it, or the kind of questions I get often is, well, it's not making you money. Why are you spending so much time doing this? Because already my paid professions take so much time. Why am I, burning myself to the ground, working nonstop around the clock on all of these other areas that passion me? Well, it's because not every compensation comes in currency of money. There is compensation that is divine, there is compensation of alignment, of service, of community. There are so many other ways that we can measure how we are compensated that it just didn't align to me. So that's how I mentally worked through it. But my metaphor I want to leave with you guys is the slingshot metaphor. And every single time that you feel there's a regression, you're working or you're walking 10 steps backward and you're thinking, oh my goodness, just life is going wrong, what is happening, I'm going the opposite direction, just wait. Because there is so much wisdom in the shadows. You have to extract, you have to live in it, you have to feel in it, you have to just be in it, sit in it. But also allow it, you have to acknowledge and give it space to be. Because when that internal process is ready and the slingshot is ready to let you go, you're going to fly so much farther than you could have walked with the status quo. So that's, to me, my way of overcoming adversities by always knowing that it is a fast forward. It's like, when you're in the airport and there's those areas on the side you can just walk a little bit faster. It's like that. And throughout all of these opportunities of difficulties, I've then taken inventory not only of what are the patterns and cycles that I circle around, how can I spiral upward? You're still going to come back to the same areas, but you're going to come back as different version, better version, smarter version, different version of yourself to continue working on these lessons throughout your life, because there's themes that are happening in your life. And I take inventory of what's going well, what's going wrong, and what heals me. What are the people, places, and things that heal me? And so I have a medicine cabinet of my alchemy, which I draw on, because I've now gone through enough life experiences where I'm like, well, I know this place helps me when I feel like this, and that thing helps me when I feel like that. So I have all of this already in my conscious understanding, because subconsciously we know this, but we need to bring it in our conscious to know what is in our alchemical medicine cabinet.
That's beautiful. I love the analogy. You'll learn that Ava is the queen of analogies, the slingshot. She'll have many more. So next, I'm going to take it to Edith. Edith, if you can. Too much. She's good. Yeah, Edith, if you could share a little bit of adversity, challenges, negativity that you faced in starting your own business or any passion you pursued.
I love the slingshot theory. It's always super inspiring to think when you're going through something that may not be ideal, it just is propelling you forward. I love that. When I told my immigrant parents that I'm going to stop being a lawyer and become an artist, they didn't love it. That wasn't the best thing they could hear. But I got the degree, I made them happy. I just what could they say after that? But yeah, there was a lot of doubt from people around me. A lot of people thinking, this is just a phase, just going through, just going to do it for a year. And I think I actually kept telling people oh, it's just for a year, And that was almost a way to deflect the negativity sometimes, and don't judge me too hard. I'm only doing it temporarily. So yeah, it took time for me to come to terms with myself, and I think that's the biggest thing. Actually, the most negativity came from myself and not from the rest of the world. And I think that happens with a lot of people who do things that are off the beaten path. It's the thought that you're not doing things in accordance with society, and that there were a lot of times when I'm like, what have I done? Have I ruined my life? Have I ruined my potential for stability, for a good career? And lots of personal hurdles in that way. And I kind of had to learn to overcome myself. And sometimes we're our own biggest critics. So that's the biggest thing I've learned. And yeah, I mean, I've gotten thicker skin, and what people tell me doesn't really matter to me anymore, but I think we should all be speaking kindly to ourselves, especially when we're pursuing our passions. And it is important to have people around you who prop you up. Like you know, you were mentioning your husband who's encouraging you to come here. Like we need at least one or two people around us who are going to prop us up. And to me, that also was my husband who always kept pushing me forward. When you know, my grandma's calling me every day, like, when are you going to get a real job? He's like, calm down, breathe, it's okay. You can have a real job, it's fine. So yeah, that's what I feel.
That's amazing, and I think the key piece here is about the negativity coming from yourself. Right? They always say a bit more context. If you point a finger at someone, I can say everyone else is being negative, everyone else is trying to put me down, but there's 3 fingers coming back to me. What about myself? Even in Power Speaks, it took us 2 years to get here. So that was a lot of self-doubt, a lot of, negativity coming from ourselves that, hey, does it actually make sense for us to do it? But we're here today, 2 years later. It's all good. But yes, we appreciate you sharing that. So last but not least, Courtney, please take it away and share about any pushback, negativity that you faced on this journey to your passion.
One Farine first asked us this question, and when we met a few times before this panel, I thought, how shady can I get? I promise I'll be on my best behavior. But yeah, in all seriousness, it's similar to what Zuna said. Like, you are going to encounter pushback when you choose to be brave and do something off the beaten path and pursue your passions. So just really being real with that and knowing that beforehand, so that you can equip yourself, like similar to Ava, equipping herself with these tools that she has, so that when she does face adversity, she knows what to do. I think that is like the biggest takeaway, knowing that it will happen. And sadly, sometimes it can happen from the people closest to you. I had a lot of supportive, family and friends when I chose to write and self-publish my poetry books. But I also had some people who, asked me, "Who are you to write a book? What's your story?" And that person's no longer in my life. But also family members who are genuinely concerned. And my grandmother, it's always grandmas. I was funny. It's always the grandmas, bless them. She was just nervous about some of the stories that I was sharing in my book were really vulnerable. And I'm talking about things like suicide and depression and addiction. She thought, oh gosh, what if your employer reads your book? And, is it going to affect your work and how people perceive you and take you seriously? And so you have to use discernment and know when the feedback and the critique is coming from a loving place. And you also have to know if it applies to you. And so I decided that that's exactly why I needed to share my story, is because we do stigmatize mental health and we don't talk about it. And so it is important. And, fast forward, my boss bought my book and she loves it and she shares it with a bunch of people. And I now work in mental health tech. And so it all comes full circle and it's very aligned. And the truth is, if someone's going to judge me for my past that shaped me, then that's probably not somewhere I want to work for anyway. So I think just be courageous, be brave, just go forward pursuing your passions and know that you will be faced with setbacks, but that can't stop you. It's actually your responsibility to surround yourself with a tribe of people who are supportive. And if there are people around you who are tearing you down, it's your responsibility to remove them in some capacity so that you can push forward, because the world needs to hear your story and they need to be inspired by you chasing your passions. So don't let other people stop you.
No, I think that's so incredible. Yes! I think that's so true. I think the piece where you said that when you start something where you do pursue your passion, your purpose, you will be met with a lot of negativity. Some people, you'll also learn, are surveillance cameras in your life. And like you said, you got to remove those people. But I think it also gives you, it helps you figure out who your people are. Like you said, who your tribe is. When we asked these wonderful ladies here that this is an idea, none of them batted an eye. Each one of them, when we messaged all of them, we got a yes. It wasn't like, oh, maybe I'll get back to you. Oh, I don't know. It was literally a yes from each and every one of them. So it will help you identify those people that you need to surround yourself with. So the next question, I'm going to gear it towards Courtney. It's about parenthood. So as you know, baby June is in the audience today. All good. So we wanted to share, or kind of tap into Courtney about pursuing parenthood, right? So we have both. We have a mixed bag in the crowd. So when you did start your journey in motherhood and parenthood,
How has that helped you evolve? How has that contributed to your passion? Or also, audience members who are thinking of starting a family. What does that mean? How will I be able to balance all of that? And I think especially as women, like you said, you'll think so many pieces. So if you could share a little bit about your experience with the audience.
Yeah, of course. Motherhood's such a big topic. We could probably do another panel. Stay tuned for future panels.
Yes!
But yeah, becoming a mom, it's just been the greatest blessing I could have ever asked for, and she changed my life in so many ways. But really, I consider myself a student to my daughter. So she's always teaching me how to be patient, how to be present, and when it comes to pursuing my passions, she's teaching me how to evaluate my priorities. My priorities completely shifted once I became a mom in a good way. And you have to kind of say goodbye to who you used to be and welcome who you're becoming. So it's very intense. She's 8 months old, about to be 9 months, so I'm still in the thick of it and figuring out, where do I go next and who do I become? But I'm just allowing myself grace during that time to navigate that. And just being present in the moment. And in terms of your question about if someone's thinking about motherhood, I was not the person who was considered to becoming a mom in my family. I think it was when I said I was pregnant, everyone's like, what, you? So I think for me what changed was finding my person. So, meeting my husband, shout out Hinge, the dating app, worked. I invited him actually to a pop-up shop. It was for women-only businesses. We were celebrating women. I was selling my books there. He came to shop for his mom and his sisters, and it was beautiful. He read the book, and we connected. We bonded over poetry, and the rest is history. So I think if you're unsure about motherhood and your career and navigating that, there's never a perfect time. It's going to happen when it happens for you, and it'll be the right time. And just try not to plan too much, I guess, because I used to be a type A person, and now I think I'm a type B mom. It's like, just go with the flow. So in that way, I'm changing for the better. But if you're thinking about it, just find the right person. Some women do it alone, like my mom and his mom. Hey, sometimes that happens. But if you can find your tribe and your support network, it's all going to work out.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, right? So all the parents or, mama bears in the audience, hopefully that gives you a little bit of solace that, even with being that, there are ways that it can actually contribute to your growth and pursuing your passion. And the piece that I love that you honed in on about divine timing, right? So whatever's meant for you will happen. And so I think allowing yourself and giving yourself permission for that as well. So the next question I have, to take a step back, we talked about a lot of pieces, and I want to ask the panelists, are you happy? Sometimes we use happiness as a buzzword. We talk about success as well. What does success mean to you? So I'm going to go through all our panelists. I'm going to start with Ava first. If you could let the audience know, are you happy right now? Is that a buzzword? What does success even mean to you? So please take it away.
In this very moment, I am happy, yes.
All right, yes, very good.
But I am not always happy, and I don't count on it. I love being in love, and that doesn't mean that I have, the happiest or most romantic or most amazing life. It just means I love life. I love the way everything is around me. I'm in love with creation, capital C, creation. And when I talk about love, I mean capital L love, that divine love, that merciful, most compassionate love that never never leaves a void. It always fills every part of me. So it doesn't matter if I'm happy. It just matters if I'm feeling fully, because the way I'm wired, I just feel so much that I have just now leaned into it, and that is my mode of being alive. So am I happy? Yes, but I don't care about it too much.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think the reason we put this question was a lot of times they tell you, when you pursue this and you do this, you will be happy, right? A lot of times we'll be like, when I get this job, I'm going to be happy. When I get married, I'm going to be happy. When I do this, I'm going to be happy. You can be happy right now, right? And like you said, it's a fleeting feeling, right? You don't always have to be happy. And there are times where you recognize that you are okay. So thank you for sharing that, Ava. Next, Zuna, I'm going to hand it to you. If you could share with the audience, are you happy right now? What does success mean to you? Or however you want to take that question. Yes.
Agreeing with what Ava and you're saying, happiness is just an emotion. Yes, I'm really happy right now, but maybe like an hour, not that I wasn't, but it comes and goes. It could be like minute to minute, it could be hour to hour. So it's not about happiness, it's about contentness for me. That's what I seek for. Because happiness you can't hold on to. There's always going to be a low to a high. But contentness in my life, I feel content, and that I can say. And I think it's just about riding that wave. It's about enjoying the process. It's about going to the lows and still feeling happy about your life, feeling grateful about your life, what you're doing, what you're able to achieve even in low moments versus high moments. I think it's about appreciation for yourself, and like how Eva was feeling appreciation for being able to feel no matter what the emotion is. So overall, yes, I am happy, but more importantly, I am content. And success for me, it changes, honestly, every year in my life, maybe even like every 6 months, what success means to me changes. But overall, I feel successful in my life, and I feel like I'm following my heart, I'm following my passions. So as long as I'm doing that, as long as I'm putting my true version out there, I feel successful regardless of what monetary value follows, what anyone else is saying. That's what success is to me.
No, I think that's beautiful. I love the word she used, contentment. We were actually talking about this in our preparation call, where last Friday I was at a conference, but I was sick. And to her point, I may not have been happy because I had a cold, I was like sniffling and all of that. But in that moment, I was content because I was happy. I love public speaking. I got to present my research. So even though I had to like pop into the bathroom and then take the towel off, come back and like all of that, I was content. And then I enjoyed that moment, and afterwards I was sniffling and all, and I'm like, all right, we'll take care of it after, right? But to your point, there were highs and lows on that day, but it was still content. So I love you sharing that. Next, Courtney, I'm going to take it to you. If you could share with the audience, are you happy? You also have your beautiful baby girl in the audience. You have no reason not to, but I'm not going to force you to be happy. But if you can share with the audience, are you happy right now? What does success mean to you?
Yeah, that's so real. So similar to what Susan and Ava said, I shifted my understanding of what happiness means. Because, yeah, I used to take inventory of my accolades, and I'd be like, okay, I got that degree, am I happy now? I'm in that relationship, am I happy now? I got that raise, am I happy now? And I would find myself saying no. And that was really difficult because I would set this goal and then achieve that goal and then wonder, why am I empty? And so, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be happy. But what helped me to get to this place where I am now, where I'm, the happiest I've been in my life, is shifting to being more present and being more grateful. So rather than measure my success based off of my accolades and my, check boxes, still have goals, still achieve them, but then focus on, was I present in that moment? If your goal is to speak on a panel, like, are you listening to your other panelists and taking gems and nuggets and connecting and like really being in that moment and being present? And are you grateful for the opportunity to be here? Are you appreciative and thankful? And when you shift to those two aspects, at least for me, that's when I found myself in that sweet spot where I was genuinely feeling that happiness. And you mentioned June and my daughter, and that's real too, because postpartum depression is, that hit me like crazy in the first 2 months of her life, and it was so confusing because I'm married and I have this beautiful baby, and I wasn't understanding why in that moment I wasn't happy. And then the doctor's like, it's your hormones, you're breastfeeding, you just gave birth, which is also real. But I think giving yourself grace in that moment, if you're not okay, to seek out and ask for help, especially as a Black woman and a Black mother, it's very difficult to admit when you're going through things like postpartum depression and to ask for help. You already have these stigmas attached to you. So I think that is a takeaway that I would leave too, is focus more on, am I present, am I grateful, and if you're not feeling happy, seeking out those resources, because you can get to that place, just not alone. Do it with help from your supportive community.
No, and thank you for sharing that, being vulnerable and sharing with the audience about experiencing postpartum depression and also all that came with it. So thank you for sharing that. And I think the piece where you said about being present, right? So sometimes, like, when you're in the shower, then that's when your mind will run like 100 miles an hour. Like, enjoy the water. Like, well, what are you doing? I will think, okay, when I come out, I gotta do this, gotta make this, right? So I think, like you said, be present, whatever you're doing, as best as you can. It's easier said than done. So last but not least, Edith, if you can share with the audience, are you happy right now, and what does success mean to you?
Gosh, I feel like this conversation is like rewiring my brain chemistry, because I think everything you're saying, I'm straying from our previous conversations, but like everything you're saying has kind of made it click for me that, I mean, life is such a roller coaster. You're gonna have highs, you're gonna have lows, you're not gonna be happy all the time, but like happiness is, at the end of the day, I think, to some, not always obviously, but just most of the time it's a choice that you get to make by being, like, feeling gratitude for the little moments, by waking up with like a zest for life and going out and following your dreams and doing what you want to do and just, yeah, like living each day to the fullest. That's happiness to me. And it's not about the fleeting emotion. It's about, yeah, like making a choice to feel gratitude for everything. Like, I'm so grateful for everyone here listening, and that brings me joy. And like, grateful for all of you. Like, you wake up in a bed, like a comfortable bed, with, you know, a warm blanket. Like, that's happiness. That's a choice. So, yeah. Anyways, thanks everyone. That was so nice.
Thanks for she did my job, man. Next time she's moderating. She connected all the dots so beautifully, so thank you for that. It is, like you said, connecting that, enjoying life, having a zest for life, and whatever that means for you, having a choice. And that can change from time to time, like you said, so we appreciate you sharing that. We're coming towards the end of our panel, so I have two headline questions. So we're going to give our panelists a minute each, 30 seconds. So there are two questions. The first thing we have is for them to share one actionable item that you can take away to help find your passion or purpose or fill your cup. So that's question number one. Question number two, if your younger self was in the audience, what would you tell her? What advice would you give her? So I'm going to start from this end and we'll just gun through all of you. So Courtney, please take it away.
Sure. So one actionable item that I would say is get specific, get out pen and paper, don't put it in your head, write down the dream life that you have or your ideal life and that ideal person, and get as specific as you can, as descriptive as you can, and then from there start to create a workback of how you can get to that point. Look at where you're at, be really realistic with where you're at, and then make yourself a plan to get there. I talked about responsibility earlier. Maybe it sounds a little harsh, but I do believe it's everyone's responsibility to go forward with your passions and to pursue them, because we are social beings. We need to inspire each other and uplift each other, especially in the times that we're in and with what the world is like. We really need to focus on positive moments and community. So get a pen and paper, write out where you want to be, and then start to make that plan to get there. And then, yeah, you can just take those baby steps. So, you know, if you want to drive your dream car and you don't have a driver's license, go book your road test. It's really that simple. And then, yeah, if you get stuck, you can always go back to that roadmap. And then some advice that I would give my younger self. Before I answer that, I want to shout out my grade 8 teacher is here in the audience today, and she is so supportive. Woo! Yes! And thank you so much for always supporting me and always being here. Yeah, I was going through a really hard time when I was younger. I, lost my grandmother tragically to violence, and yeah, this teacher of mine, she was the first person to inspire me to write poetry. And she had this assignment where we all had to write our own anthology of poetry, and that was my first published book, and I still have it. And yeah, that really inspired me to say when I grow up, I want to publish my own book. So shout out to women empowering women. So I love that. This really touches me over my time limit. No, that's important. Yeah. Do you want me to ask what her name is? We have to give her a full shout out. It's really good. Shout out to her, empowering women. So you inspired me. So much love. Yeah, so then the advice that I would give to my younger self was really just to be intentional. I think, especially in my early 20s, I was living life. I was out there reckless, which is fine, but I would tell my younger self just to stop and pause and ask yourself why more often. Why are you consuming that content? Why are you hanging out with those people? Why are you eating that food? And just really be intentional about every aspect of life. And I think that I would have made better choices. No regrets, because mistakes are lessons. However, I probably could have saved myself some heartache and so much pain. But everything happens for a reason. But I would say just be more intentional about even the smallest things. What are you eating? What are you watching? How are you speaking to yourself in your own head? Are you kind to yourself? So yeah, just ask why more often.
Beautiful, so thank you for that. Edith, please take it away.
So very similar to Courtney's answer. I'm a really big fan of visualizing where you want to be. I think it's really important to have like a literal visual depiction, but even if it's just, I know you're saying no specific, but yeah, whether it's specific, vague, just an idea where you want to go. And I think it's really important every single day to do something that brings you just a tiny bit closer to where you want to be. Sending one email, doing one little, like signing up for one small thing, just so you can go to bed thinking, like, I've got myself that tiny inch closer. I think that's really important. And then one thing that I would tell my younger self is to stop caring so much what people think of me.
That's awesome. Edith is the one, she is the most concise answer. Like, she has a punchline even earlier today, right? So kudos to you. Thank you for that, Edith. So Ava, please take it away.
I would tell myself that, such a hard question.
When we were preparing, everyone was like, hold on, give me a second. So yeah, I totally get it.
To trust. To trust yourself, to trust your inner knowing. All the answers are already within you. And I really believe that the way knows the way. So take one step, even though it's the unknown, even though it's completely pitch black and you can't see your hand in front of your face, but you have a hunch, you have a passion, you have an idea, follow it. Get to know yourself. So I would say that can look so differently for all of us. And I don't have a specific formula, but spend time, invest time to get to know yourself. Take one step in front of the next. The path will reveal itself. You don't need to know where you're going. And my favorite way of looking at it is being on the stem of a rose. The stem is inevitably going to have a maze. The maze might be made up of thorns and leaves. We take them both, but we know we have enough patience and foresight of the stem to know that the rose awaits. So don't be angry at the seed why is it not a flower yet. Be patient and take one step at a time.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Last but not least, Zuna, please take it away.
Yeah, I agree with what all three of you have said as well, but just to build on top of that for something actionable that all of you can do, I think it does, like, visualization helps and having goals helps, but also just sit with yourself, think about what you like, and it doesn't have to be long-term goals. Just think about what makes you happy on a day-to-day basis. You can fill your cup and also not commercialize it. You can fill your cup and just feel little moments of joy. So I think really go after those moments where you feel truly yourself, where you feel happy or content. And try to bring those into your day-to-day life. And that could be anything. It could be as simple as dancing around, as just singing to yourself. It doesn't have to be something that you're showing to the world always. But I would say do more things for yourself. And within doing that, you're going to be able to do so much more to fulfill your dreams. Because everything that you're doing for yourself just goes towards the bigger picture. So I think that's an important aspect to keep in your life. In terms of advice that I would give myself, that is a hard question because there's so much I would like to tell my younger self. But I think the main gist of it would be just to trust the process. Don't question it too much. Just take things as they're coming in and say yes to opportunities more. Say yes to things more. Don't get into your head too much. For example, I'm terrified of public speaking. But saying yes to little stuff like this that only helps you and helps your growth. So yeah, trust the process and enjoy the ride.
I appreciate that. We got lots of nuggets from all of them. Zuna saying how she mentioned, you don't need to commercialize your passion. It can be dancing in your bedroom. You're good, right? How Ava said, told you she's the queen of analogies about the rose, right? You'll get some leaves, some positivity, you'll get some thorns, and you keep going, you keep navigating it. As Edith said, care less about what people think. Preach. There you go. And what Courtney said, right, about being more intentional. And as she mentioned, how her creative teacher is here, so paying it forward. I can say that, yes, Courtney, I work with her. She is very inspirational and she pays it forward. So empowering others, and I think that's what all of us are doing here. So hopefully one day we'll have other people in the audience that we like to watch you. And that is what brought us here today. So that wraps up our panel. So thank you so much to our panelists, but also the audience.
Also, thank you to Farina and Nil for setting this up.
Thank you.
do have, and we're not perfectly on time, but we do have a few minutes for questions. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask our panelists?
Courtney, where can I buy your books?
Oh, this is sweet. On Amazon. I write under the name Courtney Space. So
Courtney
you can get
Space.
them, yeah, Mirrors and Smoke and Hallways are the titles.
Amazing.
send
Thank
you
you
the
so
link
much.
for that. Thank you.
Any other questions from them? I'm looking at the audience and saying panelists. Any other questions for our panelists? Yeah.
I have a question for Courtney.
You got a beautiful voice.
Oh, thanks. I just want to know what's one thing that shocked you the most about yourself through your motherhood journey thus far.
How much, okay, so one thing that shocked me the most with my motherhood journey is how much I can operate on so little sleep. And also just my capacity for being able to communicate. Again, I big up my husband a lot because he is just the greatest partner and that I don't have to do this alone. And he can really, be that other parent. And sometimes we fall to traditional gender roles as a mom. So yeah, I have to thank him. But what surprised me about myself was how I could work so collaboratively with someone. And really trust someone else with my most prized possession. And it's a scary thing, but at the end of the day, I know that she's safe in her dad's arms, and so that shocked me that I can let go of that control and work so well with someone. I thought I was good with teamwork before, but yeah, I definitely was shocked by how well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question.
I have a question for Edith. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but just how did you come to your friends and family about that transition from being a lawyer to what you're doing now, and a little bit about that journey?
I don't think it came as a complete shock to them because they knew. It's funny because even when I was in law school, there was a couple, Nelka was in law school with me and she's out of here too. Sorry.
Osgood represent.
Yes, Osgood represent. There was people were voting for people who were least likely to stay to keep being a lawyer. I didn't win the overall one, but everyone who knew me was like, yeah, it's definitely Edith. So it wasn't a complete shock. I think at that point in my life, I stopped asking people for permission. I just told people where I was at. And I know that not everyone's there, and I know that it's difficult, but you have to put yourself first, and put your mental health first, and put your ambitions first. And just go for it, because at the end of the day, you have this one beautiful life to live, and you don't need anyone's permission to go for what your heart tells you to do. So, I think the people who love you will accept you, and if you need to set boundaries, then that's okay too. But at the end of the day, when people see you in your role doing something that you're fulfilled doing, then they're gonna be happy for you if they love you. Yeah.
Thank you, Edith, and thank you, everyone, for your questions. And as we wrap up the panel discussion part of our night tonight, we do want to provide our panelists with a small token of appreciation. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you. You all air guns for this.
So we'll just give a big round of applause for this wonderful panel. The applause didn't stop. I was like, okay, I kept holding the mic. They're like, no, they still deserve that. So I hope you enjoy the panel. I hope you take a couple of nuggets from this panel discussion and apply it to your life. But yeah, thank you so much. So one last round of applause for our panelists. Let's go.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for taking part in our awesome panel discussion this evening. I hope you took at least a nugget of wisdom with you as you explore the question I asked you earlier: what does empowerment mean to you? a different perspective on it. Or maybe you have a totally different understanding, informed by the wisdom and experiences shared by our panel discussion today. And so that's really all we wanted, at the very least, for you to take away from today's panel discussion, is something to empower you, to give you permission to choose you and choose what it is that means the most to you. And that may be pursuing your passion. Or maybe that means climbing the corporate ladder and killing it. Whatever that means for you, don't let anyone tell you what that means to be. So definitely wanted to, clearly I was very much inspired by that conversation.